Today's chat is brought to you by, well, all of your support. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through Podbean's crowdfunding, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a patron of the FFC, please be sure to visit our website and click on the support link. Even a single dollar helps, and for those of you who are already patrons, thank you again for your generosity. You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search, focus that fire. And so we come together. Join us. Join the discussion. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat. Welcome back for episode 28 of Extra Lore, recorded live on July 8th, 2018, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Our topic for tonight's episode is going to be a look at Star Wars. But first, let's run through a quick introduction of those on the show with us tonight. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86. Next up, we have the grizzly bearded cultivator of spinfoil himself, someone who has been lovingly labeled the Tigger of Destiny lore, the one and only Beard Grizzly. Beard, how are you doing tonight? I nearly got it! I nearly got through the intro!
Yeah, you almost did. I'm doing okay. This is going to be a weird one for me tonight, because I haven't done too much looking into newer Star Wars stuff lately, but I'm curious as to what's going on. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, because it's been a while since I've actually talked Star Wars with anybody.
Nice. And, well, speaking of that, actually, of course, for these topics, we always want to make sure we have someone who is well-versed in the lore, especially the current lore, as in case of Star Wars. And so I'm happy to welcome back Damo. So, Damo, how's everything going for you tonight?
It's going fine. Thanks for having me on.
Definitely. And for those of you who might have missed the first few chats we had with you, actually on this topic, can you give us a quick rundown of how you kind of got involved with the Star Wars lore?
Yeah. So, I was a big fan of Star Wars from before I had met. Realistically, I remember watching it on TV all the time whenever it came on. And then there was a series of books written by a gentleman named Zahn, detailing the adventures of the true hero of the Star Wars universe, Grand Admiral Thrawn. And I really fell in love with those books. And so that started me off on exploring the other corners of the Star Wars universe beyond them.
All right, cool. Well, and I know we were going to try to ask a question for everyone this week, but things got a little bit hectic, which is actually why we ultimately had to reschedule the episode as well. Right. So we don't have a question this week, and we are still waiting for the poll to wrap up to let us know what we're going to be talking about after we get back from Guardian Con, because we will be, out there later this week. So... And that being all said, I know we want to get into the discussion. We actually kind of have some pretty cool little tidbits to talk about tonight. So let's run through our standard intro notes, and then we'll jump right into it. In our last Extra Lore episode, we had a brief introduction to Halo. If you ever miss an episode and would like to catch up, please be sure to check out FocusFireChat.com for archives, articles, and links to the other aspects of Focus Fire Chat. If you don't mind, please rate and, if you can, review the show on iTunes, Podbean, or whichever podcasting app you use to enjoy podcast. Reviews in particular are extremely helpful as they help us show up on charts, and that helps others find the FFC community. To those of you who have already taken the time to leave us a review, thank you. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. With the Extra Lore series, we delve into a game series other than Destiny for a full month, giving the group a chance to get a feel for the other games that our community loves to play. As with the normal chat topics, Extra Lore is decided by the community through a monthly poll. After the month's discussion has come to an end, we get together to stream a high-level summary of the chat for those who were unable to participate. Please be sure to also give some support to the other podcasts in the Guardian Radio Network, links of which can be found in our show notes or on our website. If you're a fan of lore in all its various forms, be sure to also check out thelorenetwork.com, where you can find a wide variety of some amazing content covering a number of different titles and mediums. Extra Lore for July is going to be a discussion on the lore of Warframe, so be sure to jump into the Discord server and weigh in. Note that next week we are going to be off the air as the team will be in Florida for GuardianCon 2018, but let us know by weighing in on the poll this weekend which topic you want to discuss when we get back. Links to that poll can be found on either Twitter at FocusFireChat or within our Discord server. With all that out of the way, Damo, which topic do you think we should chat about tonight in regards to Star Wars?
I actually have two subjects. The smugglers and the sort of underworld elements of Star Wars.
Okay.
And then the second topic I wanted to talk about is the ending of Rebels, which I'm not sure if anybody else here has seen, but had some really interesting elements.
Have not, would love to, because I've loved the of all of the Star Wars, I think my most loved has actually been the animated stuff, like Clone Wars, and that has just been awesome.
Rebels is a worthy successor, and
It
I'll
really
try
is.
to. So we can talk about that a little bit later. But the underworld element is a great place to start, considering Solo just landed.
Mm-hmm.
Dun-dun-dun.
Well, and I think, like, the funny thing, speaking about Solo, like, one of the biggest things that I kind of didn't, I don't know, I can't remember if this was part of the EU before, obviously the current iteration, but they explained where he gets his name.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I thought in the EU, the Legends EU, his name was actually a family name, but in the in the new one, it is not. So like that tie-in is no longer there, because with the Legends, what was it? Legends, the family name of Solo was basically royalty in
corporate aristocracy.
Right. Yeah. So that was like the whole thing, and then but like in Solo the movie,
and Han was the standard run away from home, go join the military, brat son.
Right, and so in Solo the movie, he's a street rat, and he doesn't have a last name to give the recruit officer. There's a lot of things that lead up to him getting to the recruit desk, but like he needs a last name, and so the recruiting officer's like, "Oh, you're by yourself, so you're going solo, and that's going to be your last name." And that's basically how he gets Han Solo.
Yep.
I was like,
interesting.
That's a bit different from what I remember from Legends.
To say that's actually kind of cool, to be honest. I
liked it. I liked it, and it also Damo and I were kind of have been talking about this a little bit off air, but it also severs the connection between Star Wars being all about the Skywalker dynasty, the royalty. It kind of slams it back into that, I don't want to call them low class, but it puts it back into an everyman situation instead of like only these heroic echelons. And I thought that was a really cool
big push
touch
Disney is making.
The
ending of Episode 8.
I'm gonna say the big reason I think I like Dark Forces was because of that reason.
With Kyle.
Yep, because he was he was a Jedi, or he turned out to be one, but he was still like a different kind of Jedi, if you will. He didn't fit the typical...
Kyle Katarn is one of the single greatest Star Wars characters ever made.
Ever made. He's so hard to top.
Quinlan Voss is another one I really liked.
Mm-hmm. That's another good one. Yeah, I gotta say, if we say,
I'm honestly gonna say Asajj Ventress is one of my favorite Star Wars characters
of all time. I think her character development is probably like one of the best, the best story-driven elements that they've had out of like most of the like expanded. I don't really want to call it expanded, but like additional universe stuff.
I would say it awesome. She ranks with most of the stuff in the non-expanded universe.
Oh,
Honestly,
yeah.
like that arc was really strong.
It really was.
Are you familiar with this character, Blue?
Mm-mm.
So
well, I mean, like she's in Rebels, right? Is that
she's in Clone Wars.
Clone Wars. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So she starts out as Dooku's apprentice, and it kind of
Oh,
comes out that
okay.
he was originally a Jedi apprentice,
Mhm.
and he killed her father or her master and took her as his apprentice. And she goes through this massive arc where she like leaves behind the Sith and then sort of leaves behind her own dark background and kind of just naturally falls into anti-heroism.
Mm-hmm.
The more heroic side of anti-heroism, but definitely
Mhm.
in for, not
Well-
the Frank Castle.
Yeah,
No.
right.
No, like she.
I totally understand that reference. I got that reference.
She basically has that position. It's a slightly weirder one where, starting as Dooku's apprentice, you think that she's going to carry on, but then all of a sudden, through I think it's like season 4 or 5, all of a sudden you get to like her origin story and how everything starts to like build up for her, and you're like, this is probably one of the deepest characters that they have in this entire thing. What is going on? It isn't a Jedi.
Yeah.
And it like really threw me off when I started to like really figure out what was happening with the character, but it was so well done. Like, it's so hard to say that it's not well done.
So Dave Filoni is obviously, I mean, I haven't met the guy and I haven't talked to him. To me, it seems obvious that he is a huge fan of the extended lore of Star Wars.
Yes.
The number of things he has done and has tried to do to get it in. I mean, Revan was almost in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, was he
Like-
really?
Yep.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And they changed it to the last second, I think, because that was when the Bay novel was coming out or something. I don't remember. But yeah. So I mean, and they theoretically recanonized KOTOR 2 because in Rebels they go to the planet that's the main central point of KOTOR 2 and to the temple that you end the game in KOTOR 2. So it's very he is a big fan, so he has been trying to do these things where he tells stories that are different than just the main line. Like you were saying, like a Sith becoming a heroic-ish figure.
Well, a Sith going more towards like the side of the other portion that's like been cut out of the EU as well, like the Grey Jedi. We haven't seen much about them, but they're more like the ones that kind of like wean on the dark a little bit. Like they look a little bit corrupted, but yet they're really not. But like true Grey Jedi are now impossible to find within the current lore, of course. Like, we have to probably wait until they expand on that a little bit more. But
until they feel comfortable leaving this timeline, we're not going to see much on that, because we won't see much on that until history.
Right.
And, it's obvious that they very much want to focus on this timeline for the time being.
Yes. Yeah.
I think when some of these 3 or 4 trilogies that are planned now start landing, I think that's when we'll start seeing the other stuff open up.
Probably. Yeah, that'll be where things will change up for us a little bit.
So do you think, kind of pulling that back into, the concept of the underworld too, like Shadows of the Empire, right, was a huge expose into the underworld during the original trilogy. You had, what was the other one? Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina, Tales of the Bounty Hunters. These are all legends now. These are not current.
They were all filling in.
Yeah, and I mean, they opened the world up. Especially Shadows. Shadows did, immense amount of work. Regardless,
Shadows is still one of the biggest media.
Oh my gosh!
Massive efforts ever, right? Because it was everywhere. It was comics. It was books.
Yeah. The comics were amazing for Shadow.
Everything was amazing.
I know some people are not.
Was good.
Oh, the video game was amazing. Yeah, gosh, I loved. Full disclosure, I love Shadows of the Empire. Just not only because it portrayed. It was one of the first novels that I read that was pretty much solely from the perspective of a, air quotes, bad guy. And it also showed the rather rickety bridge that Darth Vader was standing on with regards to, how he stood in loyalty with the Empire. Which I thought was really an interesting development on his character, especially. But the other thing that I was going to say is, like, regardless of how you feel about, like, the story of Shadows, what it did was it really opened the door to, Black Sun. Black Sun was a huge thing that it taught, because, I mean, Caesar was, the leader, is the leader, whatever you want to say, of that underworld corporation. And so I guess my question here is, in the new lore, in the new EU or the new series, is there an equivalent to Black Sun? Is Black Sun still around, or is it?
There is Black Sun, yes. Rebels canonized Black Sun in.
Oh man, is it just as bad as it was, or is it?
Yeah.
Because I mean,
they were recanonized in Clone Wars too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's what one of the things Maul took back over when he was doing his.
Okay. Because I'm blanking on the crime syndicate that was inside of Solo. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Black Sun. But like, there's a big play. That's, again, not a big surprise that Solo gets involved with crime syndicates.
Yeah.
But there was, it's not a surprise at all that he got involved with them. But, like that whole thing, I think, is also always kind of an intriguing aspect, because it adds depth, I think, to the Star Wars universe that a lot of people might not, necessarily be aware of. But I didn't know if you guys wanted to talk about those any.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the EU had the EU or Legends had a lot of expansion on that. Like there was definitely a lot to tie, like, smugglers and their sort of freedom-loving ways to the rebellion and the good guys all throughout history. In the Coder series, actually, that I was mentioning, in the precursor event to the first game. The Mandalorians basically decided they needed to pick the biggest fight they could, so they messaged the Jedi Temple, and they're like, well, you want to brawl, bros? And the Jedi were like, nah. And then they were like, okay, well, you like this Republic, right? So we're just going to start killing every Republic citizen we can until you show up. And that went on for a long time, and the Republic couldn't do anything because the Mandalorians are, very
Mandalorians.
Very
They're Mandalorians.
I was gonna say.
And one of the early turning points in the war was actually a bunch of smugglers formed a fleet and ran a blockade and struck from behind and allowed a Republic victory, which was the only real Republic victory until one of the other true heroes of the Star Wars universe, Revan, stepped in and stopped the slaughter.
Because is the Smugglers Alliance canonized, or is that still just in Legends?
I think that's still in Legends.
Okay.
Because we haven't seen.
Because I haven't. I didn't. I mean, admittedly, I
don't think
I need to find a way to watch Rebels because it's not on Netflix. They just have Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But
it's pretty good. The first season's a little
shaky.
It's a little lighter than the rest of it, is what I would say.
Yeah,
like it's fine stuff, but it's just light fare in the first season.
It takes on the aspects of it being a cartoon, I think, a little bit too heavily.
Oh, and so does Clone Wars. That's why I keep keep trying to slug my way through Clone Wars, and I have to take season 2. Is that the one? Okay.
I think that goes with like any of the Star Wars animated. It's just like the first season is always a slog. But then after you
Well,
get
and I
through
think
that
it's-
first season, it like really carries
Well,
over. It's just being
Clone
like,
Wars,
And I think it's
Clone
intended
Wars,
to
yeah,
be
Clone
that
Wars
way.
was meant originally as like something for a much younger audience, and then I think they
Right.
realized the audience that was actually paying attention was much older.
yeah.
No,
Well,
I
it's
actually
also
think
cartoon.
so. Actually, wait, no, I'm going to fight this. I actually think that what they wanted to do was do the same thing Harry Potter did, because if you watch, the person that grows in that series is Ahsoka,
Yep.
right? I think Clone Wars was intended to do exactly that. I think it was intended for the first season to be very light and soft, so that it people can get into it, and then the second season, it grows up a little bit, and then by the fourth and fifth, you're definitely in Nietzsche territory.
Yep.
Because Rebels doesn't follow Ahsoka though, right? Rebels follows the smuggler crew.
Well,
isn't it more around the smuggling?
It is
the smuggler crew.
Well, no, it's around. Yeah, it's around some people who start the rebellion. Is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it
and
carries
Ahsoka
on.
is a big character.
Okay.
I will say.
It carries on the ideas of the Rebel Alliance as we know them, basically, and then just kind of like changes around with it a little bit. But for the most part, no.
I love that. I love that answer. Well,
yeah.
The second season is more Ahsoka's season than anybody else's in that show.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what kind of
is why I'm saying that. Like, there is literally a season of this show that is Ahsoka.
Right.
And like, it's ridiculous because even the episodes she's not even in most of the episodes right now.
And it's still mostly about her.
The other ones are just filler for her, right? They're just setting her up.
Basically.
Because, they do what... I'm going to spoil it a little bit for you, Blue, but they do what everybody's been scared of since Clone Wars landed, which is what happens when Anakin meets Ahsoka.
Oh no.
No, they do good with it. They do good with that whole plot line. But yeah, that's a question that gets answered.
Cool. Well, okay, so going back into the territory of like smugglers in the current canon EU, because obviously I'm more familiar with the Legends, I guess Legends canon, which is kind of an odd thing to say, but the old canon.
Yeah.
So, like, what is the major... I know we still have the trifecta of Chewie and Solo and Calrissian.
We honestly haven't seen that much. Dr. Aphora, I think her name is, from the comics, is kind of a smuggler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there was...
/ archaeologist. She's awesome because... she's just awesome. Go buy her comic books. I'm serious. She's definitely one of the better Star Wars characters in the newer canon. And it's funny too because she's basically supposed to be Han.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah, well, because also she has a weaponized R2 unit and a serial killer protocol droid and a psychotic Wookiee. So yes, she is the anti-Han. She does everything for herself.
And who was that?
I think her name's Dr. Aphora. I can't remember. She propped up first in the Vader comic books.
Oh, okay.
She was pretty well loved, so she got her own book, and it has been going strong. And it's cool because it's a dark side comic that's been going strong.
Yeah, that's a really cool. That's a really cool. What about Maz? Because I know Maz showed up in. What was that?
I don't know much about her.
I know that she's like super old.
Yes.
Yeah.
And very obviously very familiar with Jedi.
Yes.
Right, yeah. And then the other ones that I was able to kind of
somehow resourceful enough to find Darth Vader's lights
and Luke's the lightsaber that fell down an exhaust chute. Yeah.
Right.
The other one that I had.
Well, we saw it get sucked into something, so at least.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because it did kind of curve at the end. Boshek, Amiza Fox Train. There's a Cornelius Evison. Oh man, I had Hang on. I have notes that I handwrote. I forgot to transfer them over. Because I think Cornelius was actually the name of the one from one of the originals.
Mm-hmm.
Boshek. Boshek is a force-sensitive human. He's actually you see him really briefly
in the cantina.
Right, he's the one that actually introduces Kenobi to Chewbacca.
Correct. Which is why they decided he was force sensitive.
Is that why? Is that literally the? Because I think that's from
from what I understood.
That's like the only appearance of him.
I think he became force sensitive actually. So this is an interesting thing: is that there used to be a card game made by a company called Decipher, and because of the way Lucas did his canon, and I actually like this. Basically, anything that was made in the Star Wars universe was at least sort of canon.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, some of the characters, like him being force sensitive, I think came
from the
maybe
card
not
game.
that, but other things did come from that card game. When they would explore characters a little bit more, they would do that.
The other ones that I have are Jackson, who, if I remember right, Jackson was a green rabbit, which that's like literally all we know about him is we don't know his species. We know he's male. We know that he kind of viewed himself as competition to Han, but in like a friendly, the general like jovial smuggler competition way. Like he wasn't
friendly rivalry.
He wasn't an a-hole that wanted to kill him. He was like, I'm better than you. The very normal one. And then I have Foxtrain, Amiza Foxtrain, who she was kind of a darker one. She was associated with Jackson, and she was the one that actually betrayed Jackson, and which kind of resulted in Jackson getting caught up with Solo and the Smugglers Alliance. If I remember all that correctly, she basically tricked them into delivering a bad or a faulty. Basically, the story was they were supposed to be delivering eggs, and she flipped the eggs without telling anybody and stole them, and then never clarified. So Jackson
everybody hanging dry.
Yeah, Jackson took the fall, and in the process of getting out of that whole mess, I think that's how Jackson got caught up with Solo, was the whole debacle with that. The other one, let's see, Evazan, Cornelius Evazan. He is a male Alaskan. Alaska is the planet that he's from. He is actually, along with, I think his name is Ponda Baba, who is the Aqualish, who is that spider-looking guy. He was the one that tried to attack Luke and got disarmed, literally, in the cantina. Which, by the way, talking about card games, the trading card game for Star Wars had a card called Disarmament, or Disarmed, and it was a picture of his arm lying on the ground. It was one of my favorite cards.
I remember that one entirely. That was a good one.
The other one that I have is Maz Kanata, force sensitive. I have female Tacodian. She is referred to as the Pirate Queen, and basically the only thing I really was able to figure out about her, just from the brief dive that I was able to do, was that her temple that we saw in, God, what was that? Was that Last Jedi?
Episode 7.
Or is that Force Awakens?
7. Force Awakens.
Okay. The Jedi alarm clock. The temple that we see her in that's hers. That's her base of operations, and she has established basically it's Switzerland. It's you don't cause trouble. You don't talk
on those. You'll see basically every icon that's ever appeared in Star Wars.
Yes. Because I remember people losing their minds when they saw the Mandalorian banner flying there. The next one that I had was a gentleman by the name of Nabroon Leeds, and again he was just random. He was the one that He was randomly in episode 4. He was in the cantina. He was the one that when the bartender yelled at C-3PO, he turned around. Like literally, that's his. That's his claim to fame.
That's his role. His role in the Star Wars universe.
Miscellaneous man number 10. The Master Codebreaker, which was a big. Okay, so the Codebreaker was the individual that we met who claimed that he was Codebreaker, but he was not the Codebreaker, right? I was still confused at the end of the movie if he was the Codebreaker or if he wasn't.
Yeah. Source is unclear.
Okay. I mean, which is kind of the. I am glad that I'm not like missing something obvious that was never made clear. And then the only other one that I had was Nian Nub, who was the Celestian that was a close friend, associate, lover. We don't really know of Lando. Friend. Okay, we'll go with friend. Of Lando during the Battle of Endor. Those were the ones that I was able to kind of hunt down.
I mean, there were a lot. Talon Card is a great smuggler.
Is Card canon, though, still?
No.
Right.
He's a good one, too, if you want to look into some of the older ones, is what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Card...
Because I don't feel like they've expanded much on smuggling in the new canon, so it's a little difficult to discuss it too heavily, because like you said, that's kind of all we've got is those X characters.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, and the same can be said for the bounty hunters too, though granted we had a stronger basis because of Empire Strikes Back than we did with Smugglers.
And also it's a little bit better there because they featured fairly heavily in Clone Wars, so a lot of them
okay. So like Bosk and all of them kind of showed up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Bosk, IG.
IG-88.
Aura Singh got a bunch of stuff in there too.
Okay. Did Dengar show up?
Yeah, I think he shows up as a background character, but Dengar's canon anyway because he's in. Like he shows up, his ship shows up in one of the movies. One of the prequels.
He shows up. Oh yeah, that's right. He did show up in the prequels. He also was obviously main and center in Empire.
Yeah.
Though I'll be curious how much they play onto the Dengar Boba Fett connection if we ever get that Boba Fett movie.
Yeah, I'm hoping that that's not on the chopping block.
Yeah,
because they said they're going to scale back, but I was really looking forward to that because the guy who did Logan is okay by me. That movie was pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it would go a long way too to explaining the after effects of Return with Boba Fett. Like, how is Boba Fett still around? Is it still Boba Fett? Whatever. Especially with the confusion that the prequels created with that whole mess of a situation.
Correct.
But do we want to switch to? Oh, sorry, go for it. What was it, Beard?
I was going to say Rebels kind of goes a little bit more into like the Boba Fett idea.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's the only thing I would kind of bring up. And granted, I think if memory serves, because it's been a while, I think they also kind of did a little something with him in Clone Wars as well.
Well, he was huge in Clone Wars. I don't know if he shows up.
Okay,
he's in Rebels, but I think it's briefly. But I think it's like for a little while. But yeah, I know he was big in Clone Wars, and they wanted to kind of like build him up a little bit more. But anyway,
yeah, he's sort of the central figure when Aura Singh and Bosker and IG.
Yeah, right.
Did we want to jump into? I know you said you had a bit on the like underworld type.
Oh, I mean that we kind of covered it with smugglers and bounty hunters. That was kind of what I meant by underworld.
The Mos Eisley Cantina, Jabba's Palace, Which,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's still one of my favorite collection of short stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were very good.
That's just such a it's such a hard it's a hard scenario to either glance over or to ignore, or to say that it wasn't either well written or that had something that everybody could enjoy. Because I think that's the thing about like us focusing so much on like the non-Jedi characters. Like I think they're the ones that aren't either talked about too often, or are just not they're not expanded upon quite as much. That's one reason I still like them a little bit more, I think, than I do some of the other characters.
Oh yeah,
but again,
no,
I think
I
that plays
totally
back
agree.
towards like the
And that's changing now, right? We're seeing a lot more.
I think that's one of
on.
the things that I really like about what Disney's doing is with the focus on, you know, non Skywalkers again. I really kind of like that. I know again that's one of the more contentious debates, I guess. But as
you got both. You get both, right? We had rich and bountiful stories of a Skywalker-centric Star Wars universe in the Legends, and it's all still there. You know, now we can explore a different. I mean, just think of it like a parallel dimension.
Yeah, and there's a
do.
chance in this new universe that Jason's not going to screw up everything,
Right?
Or even exist.
I mean, yeah. How beautiful is that? A universe out Jason Solo.
I know Dan was
we
like
all just love
super
that a little
happy about that.
I think y'all are liking that a little too much.
Oh man, it's not so much Jason as what Jason becomes. Let's be honest.
We lost Jason and we picked up Kylo. It's win-win.
Oh man. And what was the? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. I was going to say, what was the second thing that you were saying you wanted?
I want to talk a little bit about the ending of Rebels, but I don't want to spoil too much for Beard if he hasn't seen it. So
yeah, I'm gonna say I haven't had a chance to really see anything.
All right, so maybe we'll save that for the third.
The third Star Wars recap.
Yeah,
Lord knows we're gonna have another one of them.
Oh yeah, that's like every time I put this and Halo on the poll, it's like boop boop boop.
Right. I gotta say maybe next time I'll actually be like useful.
I mean, I would love to do one on the ending of Rebels because I have a lot to say about that. So
I'm gonna say I had seen that.
Get that watch, talk about it in chat, and let's get it voted up.
Yeah, I had seen it was they finally put it on Blu-ray, which is the only way that I'm able to really see them. But
yeah, for sure.
I am absolutely looking forward to being able to dig into those. To be honest, because that's
excellent.
That is honestly like one of my favorite of all time kind of animated features that they've put out so far. I think not even just for Star Wars.
Kanan is probably my favorite Jedi.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then was there anything else really that I know the chat for this one was a bit light, which is why we kind of took liberty and jumped onto the Smuggler channel there with Solo coming out.
Right.
Yeah. No, I can't think of anything.
All right.
Anybody else?
No, I'm gonna say because that's the problem. Like with the EU getting cut down now at this point, like there's with not being involved in the last chat that you guys had too. Like that was one of the things that kind of ticks me off is just the fact that there's not a lot of EU to really talk about anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean to play defensive, which is really weird for this whole debate because I'm kind of on the same page as you. To play the defensive too on that, it's give them credit. They only have been around. The new EU's only been around for what 3-4 years now.
It has
a cautious approach is kind of okay with me.
Right. Well, especially
honestly,
given what happened when they did it to a cautious approach.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, we also saw what Lucas wanted the next trilogy to be, and proved yet again why he doesn't need to be involved. But no, and I have not been displeased by any of the movies, really, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was
I mean, like I said, I've got both, so enjoy these for what they are.
I have.
Well, there's that too.
Even if they aren't what I wanted out of Star Wars, like, still enjoying them.
Yeah, I will not say that I'm the biggest fan of Last Jedi, but I will still say that I think it is a fair film. I still say that it's a fairly well crafted film, but it's one of those cases where it's I think that some that also watch Star Trek will understand what I mean by this. The new Star Trek films are great films, but they're terrible Star Trek films, and I feel like that's almost like the newer Star Wars films are kind of like turning into. They feel like they're that kind of boat, but.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I saw the analysis of The Last Jedi, and I really agree with this, and I didn't really recognize it until someone, like, it's one of the things you're thinking and you don't realize it until someone else says it. It happens a lot for me. But like they said, like the ending of The Last Jedi, which, I mean, I guess spoilers if you haven't seen it. It's been over.
Up.
Yeah, isn't it? The next one's out, people. If you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say if it's out on Blu-ray DVD, then at that point I kind of say statutes up on it.
But the ending,
that is the statute.
The ending is like the best representative of a pacifist refusal and overcoming an army. Like.
Oh, no, that is beautiful. That was a great
Oh
scene.
my
that is...
god. Of course, and then the added insult the added insult of the shoulder. Like, it's like, yes. The only thing I could see, like, the only thing that I had a slight problem with was Leia in the space. Like, I was like, I'm like, really? Yeah. I'm like,
it's like, I know what you mean by it. I know where you're going with it, but like, no.
Yeah, I was like, that was the only part of that movie that I really. I mean, and ultimately, I wasn't like super upset, but I was like, it took me a little bit to kind of be like, because when I first saw it, I was like, really? Are we gonna?
Yeah, really.
We're gonna do this one? It's like, all right, well, whatever. It works.
Alright, well, I should call it a night, folks.
You gotta take off, yeah. So Damo's gotta take off, so that means that our lore expert is taking off. We actually did not get any dispatches for this topic. We did get a dispatch, but it was for it was an aspect of Destiny that we'll talk about when we talk about it next, which will not be this week. It will be the following week. So, quick reminder there. And yeah, and like I said, this extra lore chat, we run the extra lore chats for a whole month, so I know that they can get a bit wary, especially if you're in there every day. But definitely weigh in on them, because that gives us the fodder that allows us to kind of give a kind of an idea of where we want to take the podcast. This is definitely going to be a shorter one, which is fair. But that all being said, you guys want to do some really quick shout outs? Damo, do you want to lead us on the shout outs or the final thoughts?
Just a shout out to you guys for a great community.
Well, we appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks for being a part of that great community, because it's people like you that make it a great community.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Beard, what about you?
Well, obviously, if you're going to Guardian Con, hope to see you guys out there. If this hopefully gets published before we get out that way, I would assume we got enough time, quote unquote.
Yeah, I should have it up tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night or something. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully see you guys out there. St. Jude podcasts are going on right now. There are a lot of other ways that you can kind of like invest with the communities. I know the Rare Drop is hosting some of the stuff for us out there. So I'm looking forward to that, because we'll actually be streamed a little bit. So you guys, if you're not able to get out to the event, are able to see us there. So you can check us. And I know Blue and I will be on a lore panel So big news there for sure.
And I think that that has been confirmed that's getting streamed, right? I think that's...
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But Bife was able to get that fully streamed out for us, so that'll be pretty cool. So we can outreach, of course, to everybody besides. But that's my only major thing, aside from like watch out if you are interested in supporting like St. Jude or anything like that, like St. Jude streams for donations, either for like hosted from Guardian Con or otherwise, are going on right now. I know that going into GC, we are like over $1 million at this point, which is amazing. I believe it was
1.4 last time I checked.
Yeah, which means that we're not even like in the event proper, and we're probably going to surpass our goal by the time we get there. So that's going to be absolutely fantastic and excellent to see that happen. And I feel like next year I got to organize something for myself so I actually take part in it.
Yeah, no, I know the feeling. Speaking of organizing something, Bife has a event. I think we'll get some information up in our chat and on our Twitter, but Bife is doing, is it with WTF Gaming, I think is that
yes.
the block that he's doing.
Yes.
So definitely keep an eye out for that and try to show up. If this hopefully gets live before that happens, try your best to show up and show some support for Bife and the awesome guys over at WTF, and then also just for the kids in general. Mm-hmm. If you can't do monetary, as we often say, if it's not monetary, even spreading the word about it helps, because that's how people get brought into it and are even made aware of it. So it really goes a long way. Other than that, just wanted to say, a big thank you for everyone. I know this weekend was a little bit kind of wonky with the rescheduling that had to happen. We appreciate it. I appreciate your patience. We had a lot of kind messages actually on Twitter, which was kind of a new experience for me. I'm not used to kindness from Twitter.
I was going to say kindness on the internet?
I know. I liked it. We should try to do it more often. But
yes, everybody should try to do it more often. Let's be honest here for a second.
So a big shout out for everyone being so kind about that rescheduling. We understand that this is a shorter episode, like I said. But that being said, we are going to be working on, I'm hopefully going to have some kind of cool things at Guardian Con for everyone if you are there. Mm-hmm. And if you are not there, I know Green and I have chatted a little bit about doing a giveaway. We surpassed 2,000 followers over on Twitter, and we wanted to, do another giveaway just to, again, say thank you for everyone's continued support over there and everywhere, really. So... Yep. That all being said, we'll run through an outro, and then I'll probably stick around for a little bit of an a bit of an after show. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to our episode archives can be found at www.focusfirechat.com. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any comments or questions for our team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. Also, be sure to check out all of our amazing partner podcasts within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.